I never imagined that I would speak about this, but then one day I received a letter, and it changed everything. I've chosen not to read it word for word, but instead write a short story, inspired by the truth of the details within the letter. Before I begin the story, I want to show you this old rocking chair that I found for $10 in the thrift store recently. Around the time I decided to refinish it, I received this letter, and in many ways, the details of this man's story, although bittersweet, resonated with me. But I decided to write my own ending to the story that I hope offers comfort, understanding, and maybe even inspiration for others who might find themselves in similar situations. This project got me thinking about all the character old furniture pieces reveal when the layers of paint and stain are removed. We can try and cover up the flaws hidden beneath, but some pieces are just meant to be cherished just the way they are. And with that, the story begins. In a quiet, forgotten town where things seem to move a little slower, a man named Elias found himself spending most of his days alone. It wasn't a loneliness he despised. In fact, over the years, he had grown used to it. He had collected a lot of old furniture, now just waiting to be restored, and the annex was filled with lumber he planned to craft into new pieces. These projects gave him a purpose, something to pour himself into when the world outside seemed distant and cold. Holidays were always the hardest. While others gathered with family and friends, Elias spent his evenings alone in silence. It wasn't the kind of quiet that came with peace. It was the kind that made his thoughts even louder. Loneliness is a feeling that affects everyone at some point, but some more than others. The highs are often no more than just having a normal day, and the lows often cut so deep at times, leaving you feeling numb. He had tried reaching out to friends, hoping for a conversation or even a moment of connection, but everyone seemed busy, their lives filled with their own struggles. It wasn't their fault, he told himself, yet each unanswered message left him feeling helpless and alone. That night, as the workshop grew quiet, Elias felt alone, staring at this half-restored chair. He thought about others who might feel the same way he did, especially those with no workshop to escape to. What if, he wondered, sharing his story could help someone else feel less alone? What if it encouraged someone and inspired them to find their own form of restoration, whether through art, music, or simply the act of a quiet walk alone? This too shall pass, he whispered to himself, remembering that life's moments are temporary, whether good or bad. Repeating this saying had carried him through much darker times. He believed it, but the weight of the present moment felt heavier than usual. In the midst of these difficult times, he also struggled financially, but tomorrow he would at least have enough money to buy groceries. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Elias had always found solace in the work of his hands. Restoring an old chair or shaping raw timber into something new gave him a sense of purpose, a way to create beauty out of brokenness. His workshop wasn't just a place of labor, It was his sanctuary where stress gave way to creativity and silence became a companion instead of a burden. The next morning, Elias woke up with an idea. He grabbed an old notebook and began to write. He wrote about the double-edged sword of independence and connection, the struggle of solving problems alone, and the quiet joy of restoring something forgotten. He didn't paint his story as tragic or heroic. It was simply human. When he shared his thoughts online, he didn't expect much, but to his surprise, the response was overwhelming. Strangers thanked him for his honesty and for giving voice to feelings they couldn't articulate. Some shared their own stories, while others admitted they'd been so consumed by their own lives that they hadn't thought to check in on friends and family. There was still so much work to do, but for the first time in a long while, Elias felt a connection beyond the walls of his workshop. He realized that while solitude could be a strength, sharing a piece of himself could be an act of restoration, not just for others, but for himself. So he continued his work in the workshop, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. Every chair he restored and every table he crafted became a metaphor for what was possible. Even when things felt broken, there was always the potential for something beautiful to emerge, so long as you're patient and willing to try. Although sometimes forgotten, even the most basic chairs and tables, if given the chance, offer comfort during difficult times, reminding us of all the ways they were useful in our lives, from childhood all the way through our adult years. Maybe it's where Dad would leave his work clothes or a magazine, or Mom would leave lunches for school. For all of us, time never once stood still, and things slowly changed over the years. We had these big dreams and expectations of how perfect everything was supposed to look, but sometimes the true beauty is remembering the unique scars that make up some of our most difficult times. So as you look around your own home, at the furniture that surrounds you, ask yourself, does it reflect your own unique journey? And if it doesn't, perhaps it's time to look closer, not at the furniture itself, but at the stories they hold. The beauty of this chair isn't in its perfection, but its flaws, the worn edges where hands had rested, and the scratches that marked moments of life lived. Restoring this chair back to perfection would strip it of its character. It now proudly shows the marks of use, love, and time. It's not just furniture, it's a story, and stories bear witness to years of moments we cherish. My name is Barry, and thanks for joining me. Goodbye for now.